Okay, so we just came out of executive session. Is it on? It's on.
Yes, we're good.
Okay. And then we're moving through the agenda, or any comments about executive session after executive session? Nothing. We're moving on. Okay. Privilege of the floor is next. And Heather, I'm going to ask you to read the letter that we have received.
Okay, we did not receive any requests to be here virtually for privilege of the floor. We did receive one letter from Deirdre and Todd Kurzweil, Sunny Days of Ithaca. Comments from Sunny Days of Ithaca regarding the Ithacan project. 1, please understand that we believe in and support development. The goal in our persistent communication on this topic is that minor changes be made to the TCIDA's approval process to help avoid damage or ensure mitigation to businesses/residents during development. 2, this project is not nearby our business. It is at our same address. Regardless of standards of practice in terms of subdivisions, we submit that the system is flawed if it allows work to be done in one part of the subdivision that hurts other parts. And really, regardless of the address, the system of allowing development projects to move forward at any stage of the process should make basic efforts to ensure current businesses/residents within X feet from the project are not damaged in the process. 3, if we are going to reward/entice developers with financial benefits, i.e. tax abatements, we should make at least minimal efforts to ensure they will be good actors, i.e. they care about the community beyond the financial project they will ultimately enjoy from their financial profit, sorry. 4, the process should include an opportunity/encouragement for members of the board to speak up when they have knowledge, both positive and negative, beyond the content of the submitted application about other businesses that have been impacted by this developer in the past. 5, one of the things that is amazing about this community is how many people get actively involved in the many different causes, organizations, boards. As a result, there's a good deal of overlap/knowledge, see number 3 above, that could potentially be relevant to any project that comes before you. In our example, at least 3 voting board members knew this developer intended to kick us out in order to revise the footprint of his project. This fact should have been known and it should matter. It doesn't mean that the project won't get approved, but shouldn't it at least be part of the conversation? 6, members of the board should read in detail and understand the content of submitted applications they are voting on. It is not clear that this is currently the case. 7, Ithaca College has been described during meetings of this board as having been brought into the project by a member of the development team, as well as a partner to the project by a TCAD board member. It was the bringing in of this addition to the original project that resulted in the damage incurred by my business, but it doesn't appear any new site plan review or seeker was conducted. We realize that is done by the city and shared with the county. But shouldn't your process include making sure that you are getting what is needed from the city, including any updated information? What is the system for accountability/follow-up? What happens when plans change? Finally, FYI, we are now being countersued by this developer who is claiming that we have violated our lease by using the inset patio space, which was agreed could be used in email correspondence prior to executing the lease. And also that we should have gotten sublease agreements with our consignment artists, which is just silly. 10, this developer is not a good actor. Maybe with encouragement, i.e. a system that requires it, we would have had better communication and consideration and could have avoided the damages we experienced. Or maybe you have other ideas. We're just asking that you not set it aside as not our problem and consider what simple changes could be made to help ensure folks like us don't slip through the cracks in the future. Thank you for listening. Deirdre and Todd Kurzweil.
Thank you, Heather. Moving on to additions to the agenda. Any additions that we have? No. Okay. And then now it's business. So Heather, you might have to help me on this one, but appointment of administrative director.
So every year, the IDA does appoint an administrative director. We started doing several years ago because we had been audited by the Office of the State Comptroller, and they couldn't find anywhere in the minutes where Michael Stamm had been appointed administrative director in 1983. So every year we appoint an administrative director. I have served in that capacity for maybe 5 or 6 years now. I've lost count. I'm having so much fun. And I wonder if anyone wants to entertain a motion to appoint me to continue as an administrative director.
So moved.
Second.
John and Jeff seconds. All those in favor of Heather staying on? Everybody voted yes. So congratulations, Heather.
Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Appreciate it. And then election of officers. So there was a list that has everybody seen the list of the officers? No. Okay.
No, so Rich and I had gone over the list, and Rich was going to put forth a slate. So I'm going to ask you to do that unless you want me to do it.
You can do it if you want.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Okay, so the county legislature appoints Rich John as the chair. So this body will appoint a vice chair. The recommended vice chair will be Faith Favre, and the recommended secretary/treasurer will be John Guttridge, unless anyone has any other nominations for those two appointments.
Seeing none. All those in favor of those two nominations going forward?
Do you want to ask for someone to move that?
Oh, sorry. See, I keep forgetting that part. Shauna will move. Jeff will second. All those in favor? Everybody is in favor, Heather.
Okay, and then we'll move on to committees, the Audit and Finance Committee, continuing members, recommending Rich John as the chair, John Guttridge and Jeff Gorski as the other two members, the Governance Committee, Mike Sigler as chair, Rich John, and then adding a new member, Faith Favre, to the Governance Committee, and then a Housing Committee, Chair John Guttridge, and then adding new members, Shauna Black and Todd Brewer. We also have two non-IDA members on the Housing Committee. That's Nels Bone from the IURA and Jennifer Kushner from the City of Ithaca. Does anyone want to move those committees?
I'll move it.
Jeff will move, Shauna will second. Oh, sorry, Todd. All those in favor? Everybody voted yes, Heather.
Okay. See, the next item, authorization of Finance and Audit Committee to review and improve the 2021 audit. This is pretty much how we do it each year, and most of the IDAs do, is that we are a component piece of the county's audit. Insero is working on the audit right now. We have a draft of it. The Finance Committee will meet next week, or I think the week after next, to approve the final audit. However, that audit needs to be approved and uploaded into the state's PARIS, the public authorities, whatever information system, reporting information system, prior to the end of March. The audit won't be done and finalized before our next meeting in April. So what we ask you to do at this March meeting is just to authorize the Finance and Audit Committee to meet to approve the audit And then we'll present the audit to the full board in April, but that just enables us to go ahead and upload it before the deadline into the reporting system.
Anybody like to move?
I'll move it.
Okay, Jeff will move, John will second. All those in favor? Everybody said yes, Heather.
Okay, so it looks like we have two separate things. One was authorizing the Finance and Audit Committee to review and approve the audit. And then the second one was authorizing the input of the audit data into Paris. I sort of mushed it together. Are you okay with that being one resolution that was already moved and seconded and approved? Okay.
Are you asking if that's okay with us, Heather?
I think it
I
was.
don't- Okay.
We good? Okay.
So
And then the business, are you gonna keep going on the business or you want me to? You can keep going.
Faith is new at this. We're going to get her up to speed.
Yes, I'm not very, yeah.
You're doing great. The McKinley Project County Housing Development Fund payment. So this has been an outstanding item that we did close on the project at the end of the year. The closing documents do indicate that they can make that housing payment over the first 3 years of operation, similar to the 2 previous projects before that. However, I did not receive explicit IDA approval for that. Rich and I have gone back, and I know Rich talked to some IDA members, and I went back and talked to Jeff Githens, and Rich did send an email in his absence for this meeting, recommending that as a compromise, the IDA approve a $200,000 payment at close of construction financing, which should be sometime this spring, and then the remainder be split over the first 3 years of operation. So does anyone want to move that recommendation and second it? It'll be on the floor and we can discuss it.
I'll move it.
Okay.
Jeff moves. Second, anybody?
I guess I'll second it so we can talk about it.
Okay, John.
Okay.
John will second so we can talk about it. Discussion.
Actually, I've got just a question for Russ. So Russ, I've had to actually not vote on the previous information for McKinley because I had a conflict with the Travis Group. But now that it's closed, would I no longer have that conflict associated with this discussion?
Yeah, and so long as you it's not a legal conflict, it may be the appearance of a conflict. So if you disclose and want to participate, you're certainly within your right to do so.
Okay. Guess I've disclosed.
So, Russ, so the normal with the housing policy that has to be paid at the closing, right?
The
So we're
housing
talking-
policy does state that it has to be paid at the closing. And in discussion with the housing committee, it was recognized when we put that specific language in the policy that that would be the preference. However, there could be an option if it was financially not the best scenario for a company to ask to pay it out of operations once the project was in operation and generating revenue. So the discussion at the committee was, if they push, allow them to do the first 3 years. And the first 2 did ask to do it over the first 3 years of operation. And that's what I wrote in my benefit memo. What's in the benefit memo that comes with the application is all the recommendations, and that was approved for the first 2. This one, I put in my benefit memo that it would be paid at closing. The project languished for about 3 or 4 months, and they were sort of scrambling, trying to figure out their financing structure, their equity structure as they put things out to bid. The costs went up significantly. They got their final approvals from the site plan from the city. They were not able to add, I think it was 3 feet of a variance on one side of the building. So they had to chop off one floor. They reduced the parking, they reduced the units from 350 to 321, and that project costs actually increased rather than going down based on the increase in construction costs. So they went back to their equity investors. They asked for more equity up front. They decided to close on the land so that they could secure the land, which they did in December. At that time, they came back to me right before closing and said, can we move this payment to the first 3 years of operation? And I said, well, that's what we did with the other 2. I don't think that there's an issue. I made a mistake. I should have looked at the policy, and the policy clearly says at closing, it might say unless otherwise agreed to or something like that. So we closed, it went into the closing documents. It was written in the project agreement. It was written in all the documents that they would pay over the first 3 years of operation. So that's my whole story, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, and this is Russ, if I may just very quickly, and it's partially my fault as well. We don't lay over the policies when we're producing documents and look at every fine or detail. And it's really a business decision the board has to make, whether or not they're willing to take it over time or demand that it's up front. And in my view, the documents are done, as Heather noted, that we kind of followed past practices and allowing them to pay it over time. And remember, this isn't a statute, this is a policy that the board has adopted. And so you really have flexibility to do whatever you're comfortable with. So I just put that out there.
And I have John and then Jeff. John.
So I got a couple of questions. Heather, can you remind us what the total payment amount is to be?
$1,605,000.
And Russ, I know when I do a mortgage with the bank, I sign documents that essentially say that if the bank's made any errors, I'll participate in the solution. Is that something like that contained in our closing documents?
Yeah, I'm sure that there is. I don't, John, off the top of my head, I know our documents from rote, but I don't remember specifically where that section might be. But if there's a clerical error, we can fix it if that's at the board's discretion or decision. I mean, they essentially agree to comply with all policies.
Right.
And as Heather noted, that we followed past practices where they have time to pay that fee over, Heather, correct me if I'm wrong, over 3 years.
Or the first 3 years of operation, and the first 2 housing payment projects that we approved that. And so I was sort of going off of practice. Is there any reason why the other 2 were allowed to do that and this one wouldn't be allowed to do that?
Well, I mean, I think in my mind, I think one of the other things that's important for us to consider is that, as the housing committee has been working on a change to the policy that would essentially disincentivize simply saying, oh, I need to pay that later. I mean, right now, essentially, if the developer just says, oh, I need to pay that later, then we just say, oh, okay, sure. And it's the same money in 3 years as it would be, or in as many as 5 years as it would be if it were paid right now. Who's not going to take that deal? So I think that we've had some discussion about, and the housing committee is moving in a direction of making sure that there's some kind of an additional cost if the payment is applied over time. And I think that that's something that we need to consider here. am I correct in understanding that the developer has offered that they can pay 200,000 now?
I asked the developer as a compromise if they would be willing to pay $200,000 now and the remainder over the first 3 years of operation. And of course, his preference would not be to pay it. They have had some problems securing term sheets for construction financing. They're adding more equity from their investors into the project. So, their return on investment is nearing 2% over the first 5 years of operation. Based on the project costs. So of course, his preference would be to push off what he can. He agreed to 200,000 upfront.
Okay, and then have we had any discussion, is the first 3 years of operating a date certain, or is that whenever the project opens, and if they're delayed by 5 years or whatever, we're waiting a long time, like what's the?
It's the end of the first year of operation would be the first payment, just like the other two.
Right, whenever that might be, which could be far off in the future.
Yeah, I mean,
That's right.
his plan is to start construction this year as soon as he receives construction financing. So completion would be in 24.
Anything further, John, right this second, or no?
No, that was said before.
Okay, Jeff, and then
So
Todd.
John asked all of my questions that I was looking for, so I'm going to lower my hand.
Okay, Todd.
Thank you. So this developer, it's a large national developer, isn't it, Heather?
It is.
Okay. I mean, I would be leaning toward doing something or working something out if they were going to be creating a bunch of jobs that were going to be there after the project was built. But it's really not. And then the fact that we're shorting the housing committee money to fund other projects, to help aid other projects. I myself would be opposed to it for those reasons.
I will just point out that this is not a job creation project. This is a community development project. The benefit here is short-term construction jobs.
Yes.
The benefit here is increased tax base, and the benefit here is 321 housing units and significant outdoor amenities and improvement to the creek walk. Those are the benefits that are, clearly part of the goals and the mission of the IDA, not just jobs.
Oh, I know, but it's the same one that he said that he wasn't going to commit to local labor too, as far as bringing in, local contractors. What? Same outfit. Thank you.
The other two the housing projects pay a housing fee, and the housing projects are not job creation projects. The other two were not, this one is not.
Yep, I understand. Thank you.
Shauna.
Thank you, Faith. I love the fact that we have a program now where developers contribute to our housing fund. I think that is going to help as much as possible our housing crisis. With that said, whenever we talk about stretching that out over 3 years, you're exactly right, John. By the time an investor stretches that out over 3 years, the initial revenue that could have been generated from paying it up front, we could have made a lot of housing in that time. I really do think that, while we have in the back of our mind the 3-year process, I think that should be the exception and not the rule. There are going to be certain circumstances where we might want to use that, but I don't think that this is one. So I will not be in favor of this.
Thank you, Shauna.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? No? Oh, no, John.
Yeah, I guess I think that if we're going to do this, what I would propose is that we offer essentially an equivalent of about a 6.5% interest rate on the funds that are delayed. It would mean that they'd have to pay roughly $300,000 extra if it's on time. I think that, I could support something like this if that were to happen. Essentially, I just, did some back of the envelope math on it. they'd be paying just shy of $600,000 a year for each of the 3 years that they would be paying into the funds after operation. I think that, if we see some kind of an incentive on our side to receive the funds delayed in terms of a larger payment into the fund, that's something that I could see supporting. But absent something like that, I don't think I can.
If that wasn't in our policy, Russ, can we impose that after the fact?
Sorry, I'm just unmuting. You can certainly make the ask. But it's not what was agreed to, frankly.
But at this point, I mean, what was agreed to is that they'll follow our policy. Our policy says that they'll pay it up front. So, there's an argument to be made that what they've agreed to is to make the payment up front, even if there might be a conflict in the documents. So
Understood.
Suggesting that we want to work with the developer and not just say flatly no, I would propose that we consider offering them essentially an amortized financing rate that's equivalent to what you might get for private debt. It's not, if they want a better rate, they can go get a mortgage at the bank. It's not an awesome rate, but it's what you would see for sort of private unsecured debt.
My only thought on that, John, is, this is obviously the board supports the project and approves the financial assistance. And there was, a glitch, if you will, as to the timing of the payment into the housing fund. And I guess, Heather, the question is, does the board want to put the developer in a position where they're already strapped? And again, this is a business decision, not a legal one, at the outset of the transaction versus getting the money over time. And that, again, that's a business decision that the board has to make, not a legal one.
And I'll note that the payment, if they pay $200,000 now, if you split the remainder over the first 3 years, that would be in each year $468,000. That's almost 20% of their net operating income. Like, it's not a rounding error.
Jeff?
Yeah, so hearing all these arguments, I will vote in favor of us taking $200,000 and then allowing them to stretch it over the 3-year period of operations. I just feel like this developer has gone through some unprecedented times. I mean, obviously with COVID and then with the spike in prices and everything like that, and their ability and willingness to continue to stick with this project and make it happen, which ultimately I think will benefit Ithaca and will ultimately benefit the housing fund as well. And I would say, given that we've had precedents in the past for allowing a 3-year payment, I would be comfortable with this. I'm not quite sure, although John, I appreciate your thought process and the interest, charging them interest. I don't know if I'd be comfortable voting for that, for an interest charge associated with it when it's not in our policy, although I know we're kind of breaking our policy a little bit, and then kind of imposing a little bit more on this developer. I think they've just gone through a lot, and they've definitely decided to stick with this project, and I think ultimately it's going to be a great project. So.
Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of, is it, so it's everybody that's in favor of the 200,000 helping the project? Okay, I gotta word this correctly.
Faith, I can help if you would like.
Thank you, Ross. I apologize.
No, it's all good. It's all good. So basically what is being presented to the board is accepting $200,000 of the housing fund payment now, and then the remainder, Heather, correct me if I'm wrong, over the next 3 years after completion.
Yes.
Okay, so all those in favor? 2. All those opposed? 3. Does not carry.
Okay,
So the next thing on the agenda is application, proposed addition.
okay, so you have in your packet, based on the discussion around the Ithacan project, I went back and proposed some additional language into our application. I just put the one application, page 9, in your agenda packet where the environmental review and permitting section is. I added a question. Please describe any short-term construction impacts or other long-term impacts to existing or adjacent businesses / tenants, as well as any mitigations that were identified as part of the environmental review and or permitting process. Rich and I sort of talked about it, and we recognize that the ability to identify mitigations or to identify impacts and propose mitigations lies with the environmental review process and lies with the city. While we do receive that information, adding that in here to just make sure that there's a point of discussion, may mitigate some of the negative ramifications of what happened in this particular project and future projects.
Would anybody like to move? Shauna? Second is Jeff. Any discussion? All those in favor? Everybody said yes. And so we will move on to the chair's report.
Our chair's absent. Do you have a report, Faith?
I do. Thank you all for allowing me to be at this meeting. The end. No, I don't. And I do not have anything from Rich either. So
Okay.
Staff report.
Staff report. So we are hearing that based on the governor's state of emergency that's set to expire, we will likely be meeting in person next month. For those of you that have joined us since our last in-person meeting, we do meet at the county legislative chambers. We do live stream our meetings to YouTube. All the IDAs in the state do that. So unless you hear differently, I would probably plan on being in person next month. That's my big report item. The other report item you'll see in your agenda packet, we do have the year-end cash basis financial report. See, I'm just turning to that now on page 3. You can see our fees from our projects. We had a number of very large projects closed this year. So, our fund balance has increased quite significantly. Our regularly expected administrative expenses including the COVID childcare grants. There was one small typo in this report. Ina had made a typo on the interest. It was interest income was supposed to be $367. She put 417. So the actual balance, ending balance at the IDA, I think is actually $2,538,328. This matches our bank account. So I just wanted to make that change there. Any questions on our financial report?
Quickly, Heather, the COVID childcare grants, can you remind me why we shorted on that a little bit? I remember that happening. I just don't remember why.
So we approved specific amounts for each entity based on what they requested, up to a maximum of $10,000. And some, submitted receipts for $8,500 or $8,900. And there was one that did not decide to reopen. So that money was left on the table as well.
Right. And if I'm remembering correctly, our authorization to actually make those grants expired, so we couldn't reuse that 7,000, right? Like there was a reason we couldn't just do another one for somebody, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
And that's it for my report, unless anyone has questions for me.
Questions for Heather? Seeing none.
Wait, I forgot. Has anyone driven by Library Place? They're like under construction.
Yes,
So-
it is moving.
Can't believe
There
I
were
forgot
cars
that.
and
I
people.
almost got in an accident when I drove by last week.
Cars and people. Committee minutes?
There are minutes from the Housing Committee and the Audit and Finance Committee meeting in the packet for your information. Now that we have committees appointed for this year, I'll be calling together a Housing Committee meeting. There were some follow-up items for the housing policy, so we'll be addressing those. The Audit and Finance Committee will be meeting later this month, and then the Governance Committee will likely get together in the next month or so to talk about the fund balance and make some proposals around what to do with our excess fund balance, which I'm thinking, looking at the IDA, the Development Corporation, and then we reserve what's been encumbered for this year. I think the balance is above that is about 1.2 million. And, anything above 600,000, we would report to the legislature. So really it's about 600,000 above where the legislature would like to see our fund balance. So we'll be making some recommendations.
Shauna, did you have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to know if those committee meetings will meet in person or if we're able to do it via Zoom.
My plan would be in person,
And where is that? At the chambers?
either at the chambers or at IAED's offices.
Okay.
And Heather, we have the technology to have those be hybrid, right? So we can offer people the opportunity to join virtually if they're not able to arrive in person.
That's a question for Russ. Are we allowed to hold hybrid meetings, or do they need to be in person?
The legislation for remote meetings expires, I want to say March 16th. So unless it's extended, we'll be meeting in person.
And is that covers, are our committees the same kind of public meetings?
Yeah, exactly. You're both covered under the public officers law.
Okay.
Okay. And then minutes, the approval of January 12th, 2022 meeting minutes. Anybody would like to move that? Shauna will move. Jeff will second. All those in favor? Todd's ignoring me. 1, 2, 3, 4. Todd, are you in favor?
I'm sorry, I'm just trying to remember, that was a meeting I missed for calling hours. Oh, yes, yeah, that was, yep, I'm in favor.
Okay.
I know I missed the one.
Let's do it one more time. All those in favor? Thank you. Thank you. Everybody's in favor. So I adjourn. Okay.
Do you want to
So,
take a motion to adjourn?
yes, a motion to
So moved.
adjourn. John, Shauna, all those in favor of adjourning? Okay, we're adjourned.
And now we're going to call the Development Corporation meeting to order.
Yes, we are. I am.
You are.
So I would like to call the Tompkins County Development Corporation to order at 3:21 p.m. Privilege of the floor. Anybody? Did
We have
anybody?
no
Nothing?
privilege of the floor.
Okay. Additions to the agenda? No additions to the agenda. Business, appointment of administrative director. Would anybody like to make that motion? I'm assuming it's Heather. Yes. Okay.
So moved.
Anybody? Okay. John will make a motion for Heather and Jeff will second. All those in favor? Is Todd in favor? Okay. We're all in favor. And then the election of officers. Heather, do we have?
Can I have someone move the slate of officers? Vice Chair Faith Favre, Secretary/Treasurer John Guttridge.
Move.
Shauna will move.
Second.
Jeff will second. All those in favor? Everybody. Appointment of committee members. Make a motion to,
Audit and Finance, Rich John, John Guttridge, Jeff Gorski. Governance, Mike Sigler, Rich John, Faith Favre.
Todd will move. Shauna will second. All those in favor? All in favor. And then authorization of Finance and Audit Committee to review and approve.
I'll
Heather,
move both that and Paris input.
sounds good. John will move those. Todd will second. All those in favor? Everyone. Chair's report. No. Oh, me. Nothing. Staff report.
I have no staff report for the Development Corporation.
Okay.
Oh, but the fourth quarter financial report is in there. You will see that we were extremely active. I think we had $1,000 in fees last year.
Sounds good. Minutes. The approval of the minutes from the December 8th, 2021 meeting. Anybody like to move that? Shauna will move. John will second. All those in favor? Everybody except Todd. Nope, there's Todd. We're good. And then I would like, motion to adjourn. Shauna will make a motion to adjourn. Jeff will second. And all those in favor of adjourning? Everyone. That's it.
Can I ask one question before everybody zips off? Dinah or Heather or whoever's, I'm filling out some bank custody forms because of reorganization of Tompkins Trust Bank. We have to redo our collateralization and custody agreements with the bank. I always sign as treasurer, even though I'm not really the treasurer. It's easier just to put that down there. And this year, and what's a little bit different from the last time we filled these out, is we have to have a certifying individual that is over me, that's a member of the board, that will sign these also. And I didn't know if that, it's probably, I guess, whoever is president of the board. Should I put Rich John in that spot for him to sign?
Yeah.
Odds from Heather, because that wasn't required before on the last set of forms that we did. So I'll have my name listed as a signer. Rich John will be listed as president, correct?
Yes.
Board. Okay, that's all I need. I just want to make.
I'm sorry, board chair.
Yeah, as chair. Rick.
Board chair. Board chair. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, we're done. I'll see you all in person next month.
Thank you, Faith.
Thank
you all.
you.
Bye, y'all.
Thanks